Hello and welcome to Life After Lupus. My name is Andrea Lendy, and I'm sharing another chapter, maybe two, in my book called Life After Lupus, What's Your Autoimmune Name? So many of you know that some years ago, I was diagnosed with both lupus and fibromyalgia. I kind of forget that little bit of information. I usually just say lupus, but it was both lupus and fibromyalgia. And I remember when my doctor told me that, he said, well, the good news is that you don't have the kind of lupus then that's probably going to take your life, in terms of lupus can attack the heart and the lungs and major organs. But the bad news is you'll probably feel crummy for the rest of your life. And I wasn't really willing to take that. I continued to seek ways to be better, to heal. I truly believed that God had a way for me to heal. And so I'm thankful that I continued in that, mental, emotional state, that I was continuing to look for ways to heal, continuing to look for ways that my body would respond positively to. I was allergic to all the medicine the doctors wanted to give me. And so for me, I had to go the natural route, and was thankful to find some very good doctors who would lead me to that complete healing. So sharing a couple, well, at least one chapter, maybe two. The first one is quite short, and it's on shopping. I shopped at a national grocery store chain that had mostly organic fruits and vegetables. I would make the 30 to 45-minute trip a couple times a week and then come home and prepare them for cooking. And this was exhausting. I have to tell you, I was already tired. I mean, I did stay and work at a full-time job all the while I was sick. So any time that I spent not at home after work and had to run up to that grocery store that was forever away was just really tough for me, because I was suffering from severe exhaustion. I spent almost every day cooking the vegetables in the wok and making a little extra for the next day's breakfast and lunch. My doctor recommended that I soak them in a very, very weak bleach solution to kill any bugs, since I bought organic, and then soak them in distilled water for the final rinse. So it was quite a process. First I'd wash them, and then I'd soak them, and then I'd soak them again, and I had to buy the distilled water, and it was, like I said, it was quite a process. It took so much time and energy, both of which were so very precious to me. The trip alone was exhausting. After a couple of years, the same grocery store chain built another store just 10 minutes down the road from me. I remember crying when this store was actually done. I mean, I just remember that day. It was amazing that I could go just down the street to my local grocery store instead of having to go to another town. All the trips I had made to another city in order to purchase what I needed would come to an end. I would save time, and this meant more time for resting, which was the one thing that was so healing to my body. So I always looked forward to sleep. Not that I could sleep very well for very long, because there was always something going on in terms of my body and whatnot, but I always looked forward to climbing into bed and being able to rest when I was so tired. We will look at another chapter tonight, travel. We took a couple of trips out of town during those few years, which required advanced preparation as far as the food we'd bring. One of the trips we took was to Myrtle Beach, California. We brought all the fresh vegetables with us, as well as a hot plate and a large pan, so I could prepare the food in my room. It made for a really interesting smelling hotel room, even with the windows wide open. Another trip we made was to our beloved Hawaii. We didn't want to prepare all our meals this time, so we brought pre-cooked meals with us to last the whole length of our trip. We weren't sure that we would be allowed to take the cooler. We literally packed a cooler, a normal-sized cooler, full of cooked vegetables. So we were prepared to fly right back home if we were denied upon arriving in Hawaii. I mean, there are these rules about bringing produce into and taking out of Hawaii, because they don't want to bring in any sort of disease that they didn't have an immune system for, and vice versa. They didn't want us to take things back to the mainland that we would have to deal with. here. So this trip gave me great cause for concern. I knew I could survive on the liquid meal replacement long enough to get back home, but leaving the mainland when I was already pretty sick was very unnerving. I wasn't sure what would happen to my body if I were to be in the sun for any length of time, because the sun often caused lupus flares, which were the worst of the symptoms until they would subside. Typically, so there's my next sentence. Typically, lupus flares up with any sun exposure, and so I was pretty frightened by the thought of being on beaches and around the pool, which is the only place to be when you're in Hawaii. I also wasn't sure that I could obtain the kind of medical help I would need if I experienced a flare, which could be worse than I had experienced in the past. That fear was always looming. Would I ever get too sick to be able to come home if I were in another state, and in this case, way across the ocean? So I was again on the lookout for the next hospital sign everywhere we went. I needed to know where the closest medical facility was positioned at all times, whether local travel or away. The first hurdle on our trip was passed as we were allowed to take all the food we had prepared onto the island. It surprised both my husband and I. We were ecstatic. The rooms had microwaves in them, and though I knew most of the nutrition would be zapped out when I used it, there was also a calm that I could at least eat the food I was accustomed to eating, and we could enjoy our time in our little piece of heaven on earth. There was still some fear and stress associated with our trip, but we vacationed without incident. That was a beautiful trip to Hawaii, by the way. It was, we were just very, very blessed. And although I know the food didn't have much nutrition in it, as I mentioned in the book, there were any other foods would be really upsetting to my stomach. I wouldn't be able to tolerate them. So to just be able to eat the kinds of things I was used to eating was fantastic. I felt like I had the world by the tail at that point, being able to spend time in Hawaii and still have my little comforts from home with me. So that was beautiful. But it did take preparation. And I'm not sure that the vegetables probably lasted very well, but we ate them nonetheless, because I think we were there for about a week, and usually I would only prepare vegetables ahead for the next day, but we were going to be there multiple days. So we had a boatload of a cooler full of already cooked vegetables. So we were very grateful to be able to spend that time in Hawaii. Kauai, Hawaii is our favorite place to go. It is absolutely gorgeous. They call it the Garden Isle. And it's still quiet. I mean, I think there's only about one road that still goes around the entire island. I mean, of course, there's inlets from that one road, but it's a quiet island and not all commercialized. I mean, you can get into some places that are just heaven on earth. And so that is truly our place, our favorite island to go to when we visit Kauai. And we've had an opportunity to go there a number of times now. So wishing you a wonderful week upcoming, and we're the first week in May. It's kind of a surprise here always how the weather is going to be. It started out today absolutely gorgeous, one of the most beautiful mornings we've had all spring, and then a little bit of hail and thunderstorms and that kind of thing. So it cooled things down quite a bit, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with it not being so hot because I know once it gets hot, it'll just stay hot all year long. So we're having a little bit cooler weather here at the beginning of the week, but I hope you have a wonderful week as we head into this next Mother's Day week. So enjoy, be blessed, and be thankful for the health that you do have. If you're struggling with something, encourage you to do what it is your body is asking you to do, whether it's rest or quiet the chaos around you or eat different foods. There's lots of things that we can do to improve our health, and it's up to us to do it. That's the thing. And so I'm actually tending to my health pretty carefully right now because I'm pushing pretty hard, so I'm kind of tired, which never bodes well with me, but I am taking care in terms of what I'm eating. So excuse me, keeping my eating in line with the way I know that my body will respond very well to. So encourage you to do what you need to do to stay well and be well. Thanks.